All right, guys, welcome to the end of day recap for Monday, June 11th. This is Christian Fromhertz, Tribeca Trade Group. And just looking at Restoration Hardware, look at this thing go here up to over 137. So really nice. It looks like this retail, which I think this is getting a little bit long in the tooth in terms of these retail names crushing to the upside. Those have certainly been the outside moves and basically where the alpha has been on earnings. So really impressive to see these names, jump out. Also, Dave and Buster's, which I did not play, is also up to 55. They beat the expectations, so it seems to me that the expectations were a little bit too low. I think there's too much negative sentiment, but again, that's kind of after the fact stuff. I did put together a trade. I sent this out to Tribeca Trade Group members earlier today, which did make it over to Benzinga. I did send it out to them as well, and they did publish it. But next retailer to break out. So we did get this published. I think unfortunately it just got published a little bit late in the day. But what I did, there was a monster move that they were expecting for Restoration Hardware, which means the options are not cheap. And they were expecting about a 15% move. The average 5 quarters Restoration Hardware has definitely moved. The average move for Restoration Hardware has been about 20%. So they're delivering again on a big move. It is not a move for the or not a play for the weary. So what I did here was I sold a put spread and collected some money there, and then I went out and bought a call spread. So basically put that on for zero cost, and the idea to make about $500 per contract that you put this on if it went to the upside. The one that I put on was actually a little bit different because I did put this on during the day, and I think I put on the 122, 127 call spread. So I think that's looking good so far. Keep in mind, big short interest with both those names. So these names have been going very nicely post earnings. Even after the gap up, considering the short interest that's involved in these names, I think the short interest is about 35% of the float. So this is going to cause those shorts to cover. Even with Dave and Buster's, the short interest was about 16% of the float. So some really nice moves and some nice trades that we put on. What else? I'll start with, I wanted to start with a couple names that are reporting with earnings because it's exciting when you get these the right way. Very binary move, obviously, always for earnings, but when it goes your way, it's a good thing. So, kind of interesting today, the market did take off, but everything kind of sold off a little bit at the end of the day. Things were just a little bit too calm, and I even said at 3:30 in the trading room, I said, how about we close the market now? You could see that we did get a little bit of a spike up in both the VIX and the VXA. We dropped all the way down to almost a 12 in the VIX. So just a little bit too calm, especially with this week's events. We got a lot of stuff going on this week. We got the Fed meeting on Wednesday, a 2-day meeting that concludes on Wednesday, and of course there's a meeting. There's a little meeting tonight with Trump and Kim tonight. So we'll see how that goes. I will look at an EWY chart, which is the South Korea ETF. But in any event, so it kind of makes sense why we sold off here a little bit at the end of the day. It is kind of interesting that we're rallying into all these events. So we'll see. And I feel like we've got, what else do we have this week? Where the G7 is done, so that's out of the way. But I think we have some economics coming out as well this week that may cause things to move around just a touch. Let's see. I'm just bringing this up here. There we go. There's the economics. Looks like it doesn't want to refresh here, but monthly budget statement. I believe we've got some other stuff in there too, but it looks like Bloomberg is not cooperating. Let's see. Economic. Yeah, should. Yeah, I don't know why that's not coming out. Maybe economic events. Yeah, I don't know why it seems like it's they gypped us with the number of events, but that's obviously Wednesday for the FOMC. So S&P still continuing with its trajectory up. The diamonds, which I am long, finished just about flat for the day. The Qs, which were the outperformer of the day, still finished up 27 basis points, but a little bit off the highs. Notice just a little bit of consolidation here, still holding all the short-term moving averages. So what do you do with all this stuff, right? That is continuing to move higher. You basically, I mean, look at IWM. Until it breaks, it breaks. I would not, I would be, cognizant of when things are getting overbought, which they are in some aspect. The IWM, is above a 70 RSI, so things are running pretty hot, right? The RSI for the S&P is not there, but until it breaks and starts going lower, you want to try to maximize your profits on this swing, right? This has been a swing higher, out of this consolidation in the S&P. So, the VIX is very low right now. Eventually, we'll get about, maybe we get a tick up in volatility with those events. But for now, things are looking pretty good. Today, there was a ton of names. Speaking of short interest names, names like Fitbit. Just crazy moves that are going on, and some of these names that have been kind of left for dead. They're like the Walking Dead. There was a catalyst. Andrew Left was out saying that he likes the name and was on Bloomberg today talking about it. But man, there are a lot of these names that, I mean, GoPro is even moving up. iRobot, which is another name that's been dogged for a while. Big up day. So, it also, keep in mind, we have Friday, which is quadruple witching, and a lot of these losers are getting bought. So what that means is in any index, right? Especially in like the equally weighted indices, this is more of an effect. So I always go to, like, let's say XRT, for example. So what happens on index rebalance, which is on Friday? All of these indices get put back to their benchmark weights, which means if an ETF is equally weighted, then everything has to go back to equally weighted. So names like Guess, 5, EXPR, TLRD will probably get sold, and the weights, the names that have really underperformed, if they decide to keep them in, I don't have their list, but they should get bought. Camping Worlds, so a couple of these names are perhaps doing that, and I think names like iRobot, if they're going to stay in indices, they have to get bought. All right, so that's the old index rebalance, where they sell the winners and they buy the losers. I think that's what's kind of going on this week. You could see that maybe a little bit more, but I think everybody's wondering what's going on with all these names. You have the major, every one of the S&P indices. So not just the S&P 500, but any of the ones that they manage. That's why I brought up the XRT, but also the same thing in biotech, home builders, ITB, XBI. This happens over and over, and also in the major sector ones, the XLF, the XLY. All of those are getting rebalanced on Friday. So what happens is everybody trades ahead of that, and that was announced by the S&P close of business on Friday. So all of the portfolio desks have that information, and they're trading off of it. Of course, they try to anticipate what they're going to announce, but all that is out there and taking place right now. All right, so that's why I think some of these names are really moving on this. But unless you have the actual data from the index providers, it's a little bit difficult to kind of drill down into the numbers. For me, big winner in Roku today. This was a name that I've been all over on Twitter about, talking about call buying. But really, for me, it was a technical move. A move outside of here. Another name with a big short interest, moving out and about. This hit the VPOC that I mentioned. So I took a target today. It did go higher, and it kind of came back in, and I actually sold my whole position at the end of the day. Again, maybe I probably should have left a runner on here, but it seems like this Roku, it has a big. I'm just kind of following the pattern here. It has a big day, then a couple days of digestion, big day, couple days of digestion. So I don't know. It could keep going, but I'm looking for that, kind of backfill, and then I'll be happy to get long again, because I did build a position the last time it did that. So a couple other positions that were really big winners. Might as well go over a couple of my names. EW, I also mentioned this on Twitter this weekend. This big BSX, right? I mean, BSX. We talked about this on Friday in the training room. Big call buying on a 52-week high. I said on Twitter, I said, watch this name. I said it's very unusual to see this much call buying in a name that is just breaking out to a 52-week high. And it just seemed like something was up. I didn't know what was going on. Nobody does. 20,000, but somebody knew. 20,000 July 32 calls were purchased. The July 33, this is Friday's flow, by the way, and the January 35 calls. Look at the amount of calls that went up. So I don't know how that gets past people, but clearly, I mean, just an amazing amount of activity in Boston Scientific on Friday. They actually bought a little bit more today. They bought a little bit of August calls. So I did not have a position. I'm fine to admit that. I had an alert set, and a breakout of the 5 minute, and this alert went off, and I went to go ahead and look to buy some calls, and it had already gotten halted. So unfortunately, a little bit unlucky. However, a couple other names that I own in the space did very well. Edwards finished close to the highs, finished up about 2.5%, up $3, and breaking out to a 52-week high. So really nice there. Also, the one energy name that I'm holding right now, Marathon, looks pretty good. Oil got a bid today, engulfing candle today on this one, so that looks good. I did not take any targets there. I took a target in FTX today. I'm long a July call spread, so I want to make sure I'm hitting targets there. But my ultimate goal is to get this thing to 270. A few other names that we've seen some recent call buying, super strong. DVA, what a move in DVA the last couple of days, and they've been call buying every step of the way the last 3 or 4 days. Tesla had a wonderful day as well, I believe, for some people. I don't own it, but Tesla moving up very nicely. A couple of charts I think are pretty compelling. This Alcoa, finding some support here at the 200-day moving average, fired off a recent MACD crossover. Your support is the 200-day there. Oh, I also bought, sorry to get, also one of the setups that I put this weekend, not HIMX, but what's ENDP, sorry. I'm drawing a blank there. But ENDP did fine today. A little bit of a bull flag here. I don't know if I would call that a bull flag, but over the 200-day moving average, I got long this stock today, and the 200-day moving average will be my stop price. But still, these names are also doing pretty well. I'm still long Teva. Teva kind of an inside day, just up a little bit, but I took 2 targets on Friday. So, I'm messing with the house money at this point, and I've got my next target I've put out. I've stretched out a bit, and we'll see where this thing wants to go in Teva. So really nice looking in this one. A couple other names. So yes, there's a meeting tonight. Take a look at this EWI. Somebody actually hit me with this on Twitter. So I want to give them credit for that. But very coiled, this EWI ETF. It looks like it could move higher. It kind of looks a lot like a lot of Asia securities, which I did see some inflows into. AIA is another one that looks a little bit coiled, but keep in mind this EWI, Samsung is about 22%. So you're basically owning a big chunk of Samsung if you buy EWI. It's 22% of the ETF. But keep an eye on this. If it starts to rally, you got a lot of coiling going on. The 50-day, the 20-day, the 5-day, all intertwined with one another. And if it gets going above 74.63, I would watch a breakout for the South Korea ETF. Looks pretty strong to me. Or looks. I would say the signal has not been given yet, and I'm waiting for. I don't have a position in it. I'll wait for that move higher. I'll wait for the confirmation. Same thing with EM. Like EM, I kind of anticipated a little bit. A move above this this downtrend line, and it had one close above the 50-day moving average, and then it kind of broke apart here a little bit. So on the radar to watch. I got out of my swing trade that I was in this one, and just kind of giving it a little more time to see if it gets above the 200-day moving average. I did go long this name in cash. This also looks, kind of coiled a bit too. This is IEFA. This is developed markets, international developed markets. So it's a lot of Japan and it's a lot of Europe. And notice you got a fresh MACD buy signal over here. The price is over the 50-day moving average. So you got some support here, which will be my stop. And that's it for today's video. Overall, really, really nice day. A lot of outperformance in some of those short interest names. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great night. See you tomorrow. Hope to see you in the trading room.